Back to the CompTIA 22801 exam. Anthony here, Venki.net, thecybercafe.org. Now we are going to discuss MSD documentation. You're going to want to know a little bit about MSD documentation for the test. Now, MSD documentation varies widely depending on the industry that you're working in, but you will need to know the basics to pass the A+ exam. So MSD documentation, what is it? Where do you go when you need to know how to handle or dispose of certain substances? Well, that's going to be exactly what the MSD documentation is for. For instance, can you just toss a motherboard or monitor? Well, no, you can't just throw that stuff into the trash, and that is why we have the Material Safety Data Sheet, or MSD for short, MSDS. Those terms are interchangeable. It's just a lot of the times you'll see MSD and then documentation. You may also see MSDS. They mean the same thing, and they are interchangeable on the test, so keep that in mind. So again, what is MSD documentation? Well, it's information provided by the manufacturer for use in handling and working with a substance in a safe manner. Now, that could be anything from a power supply to actual chemical baths, depending on the type of work you're dealing with. If you're in like the microprocessor industry, there may be some harsh chemicals that you're working with. It can go all the way down to floor cleaning chemicals. It really can vary a lot, or pretty much anything that is harmful to an individual or the environment. An MSD sheet is going to be available from the manufacturer. So in 1989, OSHA expanded its hazardous communication standard to cover all employees who could be exposed to hazardous chemicals in the work area. So a manufacturer must provide MSDS to the purchaser at the time of order, and anytime the MSD is significantly revised. So you should have somewhere located in your company copies filed away for MSD documentation for different types of chemicals that you're working with, or different types of hazardous materials that you're working with. However, these are sometimes not readily available, and you should, if you're working with a chemical you're unfamiliar with, you should always ask your supervisor where this documentation is located, whether it's locally or online. MSD documentation should be available for use by all employees. MSD sheets for most products can usually be found online, as previously mentioned. So if for whatever reason you're working with a chemical or product and you're unfamiliar with it, and your supervisor does not have a copy located on site, generally you can go to the manufacturer's website and locate the sheet there. Remember, it is your responsibility to read and be familiar with MSD documentation for your work environment. It's very important. Now, I say it's your responsibility when in reality it is the entire team's responsibility. So, make sure, if once you start a new job, you take your time and get access to this material, know what you're going to be working with, because you could hurt yourself or others, and again, legal ramifications can come up for the company, and the last thing you want is to be the person who got, your company sued because you decided to take a box, a huge box of motherboards and just dump them in the landfill. So that's all you really need to know about the basics of MSD documentation. I'll catch you in the next video.